What's good, everyone? Welcome back. Namaste. I appreciate you for being here. Today we have a good one. Free your mind. For 10 years in my 30s, I was in prison. I did hard time in my brain. A lot of us can remember the movie The Matrix, where everybody was plugged into these pods and they were living in a simulation with their energy being pulled into the matrix by the system. Now, whether we are living in a simulation or not, and we're drawing the brain here, right now it looks like a piece of poop. Here you have some glasses. You don't really know what's going on here, right? Just like a regular, you know? We make our lives out to be more complicated than it can be. This could be a man or a woman. That's the only real thing there is. But in this box we created, look at that, this box. In our box that we've created for ourselves, this prison, reality, which is not real, there's many temptations: drugs, food, porn, feelings of being alone, etc. You can fill this whole box up, right? It's like, And as these shelves pile up, drugs, food, porn, feelings of being alone, not being worthy, etc. On the other side of the prison cell, despair. You don't need to know how to spell perfectly to manifest and receive things in your life. Despair, depression. A lot of people have anxiety, which we will talk about how to get rid of. And worst of all, you could get a case of the fats. And most people, when you get to the fats stage, that's the worst stage. I was at the fat stage, 283 pounds. So if you're here, I'd like to ask you, who talked you into your plan? Because I've been here. When your brain is mush, you have to turn it into a brain. And when you are not feeling like you are living up to your unique potential, you're going to want to kill yourself. You're going to want to be not living in physical reality. You're going to want to be in the fats. You're going to love being a victim. You could put victim in here. And the only way to unplug from this horribly drawn pod of matrix and to free your mind is to realize that only you have the ability to change your life. Now, how do you do that? There are 7 chakras. And we're not getting into woo-woo today, okay? He's happy. He does yoga. He does boot camp. There's 7 chakras. There's the crown. I'm not an expert in any of this. I do yoga. I'm not a yogi. As soon as you start thinking you're a yogi, that's the ego getting involved. So you have your crown. You have your third eye. You have your throat. You have your solar plex. You have your sacrum, and then you have your root chakra. So on Earth, scientists are finding out that we have neurons, which they already know in our brain, but which is here, okay? That's why that was there. But it's also in our heart and our gut. which means when you get those feelings, when your instincts are coming from a higher power, your whole body is in tune. It's in one frequency. And when you are in prison, when all of these elements are in prison, you're going to be out of tune. You're going to be like a bad piano. It doesn't matter what song you play, it'll be off. Quick story. I grew up in a really nice area in New York City on an avenue called Fifth Avenue. I did everything they told me to do. Went to college, I got a job, blah, blah, blah. At one point in my life, I ended up in a call center, and I was working next to a guy who was literally 350 pounds. Here's our cubicle, right? And he would just have 6 sodas every day, Coca-Colas. Here's the computer screen, you know what I'm saying? Here's the desk, whatever, and you get it. Right? And you're sitting next to each other. And he's just cracking so. Pss, 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 pss. And at one point, I was in my late 20s. I was making up to $10K a month. I was working at a hotel. I was killing it in the cash tips. And I'm sitting here, and I'm in the same booth, essentially, right? I'm in this pod over here. And we got the phone. Here's the phone and shit. And I'm thinking to myself, and see how this is like a mirror? These are 2 frequencies that are the same. It didn't matter where I came from or where he came from. It didn't matter that I was getting in shape, trying to change my life. I was at rock bottom here. Didn't matter, because at one point our frequencies were the same, man. We ended up in the same place at the same time. And I actually ended up getting fired I've been fired from every job I've ever had. They paid me $4K to leave. But I was in prison. When I was working in a call center, the first month I started, my best friend killed himself. I thought I was at rock bottom. He didn't have a thing to worry about. And that's what's crazy. The brain, this mushy nonsense, everything is fake, man. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I had my yoga teacher yesterday. I was telling her, oh, I just signed a lease for this loft. At first, I didn't think I was good enough for it. She's like, oh, your budget, you had to raise it. I'm like, no, it was more of like a mental budget. I didn't think I was good enough for it, but obviously I'm good enough for it. And me not thinking I deserved a nicer place, I can afford it, just starting to be able to afford it again. That was a mental prison. Had to release that. And she asked me, well, how does that make you feel? Because she's a therapist, and it doesn't make me feel anyway. It just is what it is, because it's allowed. You have to allow yourself. See how those bars just went away? You have to allow yourself to have your vision, and you have to allow yourself to fail. That's how you free your mind. You just have to keep trying stuff. Trying and trying and trying. And then eventually you'll hit the nail on the head. My entire existence is coming full circle. I've been on this side quest now for 3 years. And somehow I'm moving back to the original place I lived. I'm going to start doing the thing I originally wanted to do when I was in the call center. I was teaching fitness. That's the true passion. When I read these journals from 10 years ago, that's the true passion. Now, you have to also understand that there's going to be times when you have your vision and you try to change your life and you get caught. You get caught by the subconscious prison guard. In those times, you need to do more jailbreaks. You need to keep pushing it. You need to keep failing. You can't see it, but off screen I had this huge machine that I'd bought from China. It cost me $6,800. I'll probably never use it. I would like to use it. In order to free our mind, we need to realize that there's old programming. Doesn't matter. Remember, again, in order to receive, you don't need to be able to spell. There's old programming, and old programming never goes away. The only time you can ever really get a new computer is when you buy a new computer. And then if you have the cloud and shit, it's just going to download the old programming onto your new shit. So you really need to realize that in order to be a different person, you have to literally do different shit every day. When I was in the call center, there was no hope of getting out of there because once I was in that matrix, I got caught in the matrix. And the only way to do that is for me to literally get fired. And I honestly tell you, if you're doing something that you hate right now, just stop. God loves you, and God will make it happen. Freeing yourself of the poop mind, it seems confusing, it seems complicated, but all you have to do at the end of the day is ask yourself, am I being the highest version of myself? So for 10 years in my 30s, I was in prison. From literally, I would say 32 to 40, I did hard time in my brain. If you need any help, give me an email, shoot me a comment. I appreciate you. In the next video, I'm going to give you some strategies, tips, tactics on how to truly transform your life, how to truly free your mind from the mental prison that has been created for us that we don't even know we're even in. Namaste.